Why am I seeing BBL clinic here? I thought Abena said her body was natural.
This is an African Folktale Nation original story written, edited, and produced by Muna Chimso. Please enjoy the story. I know you guys have waited for it.
Welcome back to African Folktale Nation. This is the final part of Efua and Abena's story. Before the story begins, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and make sure you leave a comment telling me where you are watching from. I really want to know which parts of the world followed this story from start to finish. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. After that night, Efua and Abena moved back into the small house they once shared, but nothing was the same. Efua became quiet, withdrawn, and she barely slept. The only thing that kept her going was the baby. Abena had to step into the unwanted role of her sister's comforter. Her plan B had worked, but her heart still longed for plan A, the fantasy of Kofi falling for her. All she could do now was wait, hope, and pray that Kofi would choose her now that he had lost Efua, because the loan apps and Dede weren't letting her breathe. That pressure soon began to show. The threat of being tracked down by loan agents or confronted by Dede made Abena behave in ways that were increasingly strange, even irrational. She rarely stayed at the house, drifting from one friend's place to another, always afraid someone would show up looking for her. When she was home, she moved like someone on the verge of being caught, fidgety, tense, constantly checking the door, her eyes never fully at rest. At one point, desperation even drove her to subtly ask Efua for money again. The request landed poorly. Efua was already drowning in her own pain, and Abena quickly backed off. Whenever Efua asked why she was never around, Abena brushed it off, lying she was job hunting. Some nights, she even caught herself wishing that she used the money for a love charm instead of a BBL. Despite her heartbreak, Efua couldn't help but notice her sister's strange patterns. With nothing to occupy her days but silence and sadness, she found herself observing more than ever. Still, Abena dismissed every concern. Nothing was ever wrong. Nothing ever needed explaining. What finally pushed Efua over the edge was what she saw one night. Standing by the window, she watched Abena trying to sneak out when Dede appeared outside, clearly waiting for her. The two immediately fell into a heated argument. Efua couldn't hear their words, but their body language said enough. Sharp gestures, tense movements, anger that couldn't be hidden. At one point, Dede even tried to hit Abena. Something was wrong. Efua's first instinct was fear. She assumed her sister had gotten into serious trouble, maybe even crossed dangerous people, and that assumption stirred something protective in her. If Abena wouldn't tell her the truth, then Efua would find it herself. The guilt weighed on her, but she went through Abena's laptop. She expected to see threat messages, but what she found instead made her heart drop. One of the open browser tabs led to a website called Curvy Girl Land Clinic. It took only seconds to realize that it was a cosmetic surgery clinic specializing in BBL procedures. Her thoughts immediately jumped to her sister's recently enhanced figure that Abena had casually credited to village food and gym workouts. Confused, Efua dug deeper. In the document app, she found detailed calculations, surgery costs, flights, hotel stays. At the bottom of the list was a final figure, 40,000 cedis. The same amount Efua had sent Abena for Dede's mother's supposed surgery. The room spun. Efua had to lie down, pressing a hand to her head as disbelief washed over her. No, please, God, please, don't let this be what I'm thinking. She steadied her breathing, but one thing was clear. She couldn't confront Abena directly, not yet, not when she already suspected her sister was a liar.
She knew exactly who to see. That same day, Efua took a taxi to Dede's place. When Dede opened the door, she looked startled. Efua forced a warm smile and asked to come in. Without wasting time on pleasantries, she went straight to the point. She said she wanted to see Dede's mother. After all, she had contributed a large sum for her treatment and genuinely cared about her well-being. Dede's face went pale. She tried to refuse, claiming her mother needed rest. Efua pressed gently, then firmly, asking for her number instead, saying she wanted to check on her personally and let her know she had been praying. That's when Dede broke. "My mom was never sick," she confessed quietly. The word settled like a final blow. "So it was a lie," Efua said, barely above a whisper. Dede rushed to defend herself, anger and frustration spilling out. She admitted she'd been dragged into Abena's schemes, insisted she wasn't the mastermind, and warned Efua plainly. Abena was the root of everything, a green snake in the grass. She was vague and didn't go into details, but Efua didn't press on. She left without another word. Before she could fully process what she had learnt, her phone rang. She answered instinctively, thinking it was Abena, but it was Kofi. "Efua, it's me. I know you blocked my other number, so that's why I'm calling from this one. Please, just listen to me. I need you to come to the house. I have proof that whatever Abena told you that night was a lie." Under any other circumstances, Efua would have refused, but after everything she had uncovered that day, she agreed, terrified of the truth, but no longer willing to live without it.
When Efua arrived at the house, Kofi didn't waste any time. "Efua," he said quietly, his voice steady but strained. "I know your sister may have poisoned your mind these past few days, and the only reason I didn't come to you immediately is because I refused to do it without solid proof. I didn't know how I would get it, but today someone came to me who has it." Efua frowned, confusion crossing her face. "Who?" Before she could ask anything else, the door opened and Seth stepped into the room. Efua looked even more confused. He stood awkwardly at first, clearly uncomfortable, but once he began to speak, the words came steadily. He explained that from the very first day he picked Abena up from the airport, something about her behavior had unsettled him. The way her attention lingered on Kofi, the way she spoke about him, the way she seemed almost fixated. "At first, I told myself it was nothing," Seth said. "I'm just the driver. It wasn't my place to assume anything." But the signs kept piling up. He saw how Abena's eyes would snap up when Kofi walked past her as she lay by the poolside. He noticed how bright her smile was when he would drive her to Kofi's office with forgotten documents, how her interest never wavered. Then, Efua left for the retreat. Seth explained that when the house was left with only Kofi and Abena, something in him refused to settle. He couldn't explain it logically, but he felt certain that something would happen. So, that evening, instead of going home, he stayed. From outside the house, through a small angle near the living room window, he watched. What he saw confirmed everything he had feared. Abena climbed onto Kofi. Kofi pushed her away, and that was when Seth began recording. "I didn't enter the house. I had no right, but I knew I needed proof. I would have come forward sooner, but still, I was scared. It would be like I was sticking my nose in things that didn't concern me." He handed the phone to Efua. With shaky hands, she took it and thanked him. The video wasn't perfect. The angle wasn't clean. The audio wasn't crisp, but it was clear enough. Efua watched as her sister made the advances. She watched Kofi reject her. She heard Abena confess her feelings, heard the truth she had denied so convincingly. She saw her kiss her husband, then push him away on purpose in order to make the edited video believable. She was lucky she was sitting down, because if not, she would have fallen from shock. Kofi put a comforting hand around her as her breathing grew uneven, her chest rising and falling too fast. "My sister," Efua whispered, shaking her head slowly. "Kofi, my own sister did this, and I was too blind to even see it." The tears came without warning.
This cane was worse than what she felt when Abena had shown her the edited video. Worse than the humiliation she believed came from her husband. It felt closer to the pain of losing her parents because in a way, she had just lost her sister too, or at least the sister she thought she had. She repeated the words over and over, as if saying them might make them less real. My sister, my own sister. Kofi held her, saying nothing, understanding that this was a grief that needed space. After a long while, Efua wiped her tears and straightened her back. I'm done crying, she said quietly. She doesn't deserve any more of my tears. Kofi nodded. Then he spoke again, his voice heavy with honesty. Efua, I need to take responsibility too. I haven't been present these past months. I was distant during your pregnancy and I see that now. And I also realize that some of my behavior may have made Abena feel bold enough to cross that line. I'm deeply sorry for that. Efua listened, then nodded slowly. Thank you, Kofi. I admit that I haven't been so pleasant these past few months either. Silence settled between them. Finally, Kofi asked, So, what do you want to do about Abena? Efua's expression hardened with clarity. I can't confront her directly, she said. She'll deny it and twist it. She looked up at him, her eyes resolute. So, we do something drastic, she said. And then, calmly, she explained her plan.
Abena arrived home late that night, as she always did. Once she sat, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and nearly dropped it. Kofi. Her heart slammed against her chest as she picked up immediately. Kofi, hi, she said, unable to hide the excitement in her voice. On the other end, Kofi cleared his throat. He sounded like a man who had been thinking for a long time. Abena, listen, he said carefully. I know this may seem strange coming from me after the last interaction we had, but I finally see it now. I should have chosen you instead of Efua. What happened that night helped me realize that. Abena's breath hitched. Now that she's no longer here with me, I feel like it's only right to do what my heart wants. Please, will you come and see me tonight? I'm at a hotel. For a moment, Abena couldn't speak. Her chest fluttered wildly. This was it, the moment she had waited for. Still, a thin thread of unease tugged at her, and she forced herself to ask, So, you're really going to leave my sister? For me? What about the baby? Are you sure? 100% sure? She wasn't asking because she cared. She was asking because she needed this to be real. Kofi didn't hesitate. Yes, I'm sure, he said. And as for the baby, we wouldn't be the first people to raise a child outside of marriage. That doesn't matter to me. All that matters is you. Abena smiled to herself. She went into her room, freshened up quickly, changed her clothes, and headed back out. As she closed the door behind her, she whispered under her breath, Finally. The moment Abena stepped into the hotel room, she moved toward Kofi without hesitation. I've waited so long for this, she whispered. But Kofi stepped back, raising a hand and said, Wait. Remember what you said the last time we talked, that this started because you wanted my money? How am I supposed to know that's not all you want? Her smile faltered. I already told you I love you, she said quickly. What else do you want? Kofi stayed silent, as though weighing something. Then he spoke. If you say you love me, he said, I want to hear everything you did to get me. All of it. Abena blinked. Really? Is that necessary, Kofi? She gestured at herself. Look at me. I'm here, despite your initial rejection. Isn't that proof enough? Kofi shook his head. No. I need to hear it all. That's the only way I'll believe you. Excitement drowned out her hesitation. She was so close. Why stop now? Still, a thought crossed her mind. How do I know you're not secretly recording me? What if you just want to show this to Efua? Without a word, Kofi handed her his phone. She checked. Nothing was recording. Satisfied, Abena exhaled deeply. Kofi, she began, I changed my entire self for you. I got a BBL.
with money I took from my sister under false pretenses, just for you." And then she told him everything. She admitted to deleting and blocking his number from Efua's phone that very first night. She confessed to the lies, the manipulation, the calculated moments meant to get his attention, the small things, the big ones. She spared no detail. When she finished, she smiled. "But none of that matters now," she said softly, "because we finally have each other." She stepped closer. Then a loud click echoed from the bathroom. The door swung open and Efua stepped out. "Oh, really?" she said bitterly. Abena froze. "Efua?" Her voice cracked with disbelief. She looked from her sister to Kofi and back again. "You too, you set me up." Kofi's voice was calm. "You have a lot to explain to your sister." Then he turned and left the room. Abena turned to Efua desperately. "Efua, please, you don't understand. Let me explain." The slap came fast and sharp. Abena's cheek burned, but the pain was nothing compared to the fury in Efua's eyes. "You lying, conniving snake," Efua said, her voice shaking. "I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to think my own sister could plan something so cruel, that you could lie about your friend's mother's health just to steal my money and get a BBL to snatch my husband. Ha! Honestly, I blame myself for being so naive all along." Abena straightened. "Don't make me feel guilty," she snapped. "My life hasn't been easy. I was only trying to claim the happy ending I deserved." "Claim what you deserved," Efua repeated, her voice cracking. "You think trying to snatch my husband was justice? This was vindictive and cruel. Did it ever occur to you what this would do to me? How this would hurt your own sister?" Abena laughed bitterly. "Of course, it's easy for you to judge. You don't know what it feels like to grow up unloved by your parents." Tears filled Efua's eyes. "What our parents did to you was wrong, I agree," she said softly. "But it wasn't my fault, and I tried since we were children to show you I loved you. I always saw you as treasured." She steadied herself. "Did you ever feel any guilt, even once?" Abena met her gaze. "No." Efua nodded slowly. "Then there's nothing left to say," she said coldly. "Looking at you now, I see you for who you really are, a desperate and insecure soul who thought changing her body would earn her a man." Her voice dropped sharp and final. "I don't even feel angry anymore. I just feel sorry for you." She turned toward the door. "I hope you enjoy that BBL," she said without looking back, "because it's the last thing you'll ever get from me. I don't want to see or hear from you again." With that, Efua turned and walked out, leaving Abena alone in the room, stunned and furious in silence. Everything fell apart after that. Abena was cut off from Efua, both emotionally and financially. Without her sister covering her rent, Abena had to move to a much less glamorous home and scramble to make ends meet. She went back to working at a mobile money stand under the hot sun. But that was the least of her problems. The loans apps finally caught up to her with full force. They posted her pictures all over social media, calling her a scammer and a thief. Dede, who she still owed, went full influencer mode, uploading a 10-part story time about everything Abena had done. The lies, the manipulation, the money collected under false pretenses, and the BBL to seduce her sister's husband. The videos went viral. Some people even dragged Dede for her involvement. People came to Abena's mobile money stand not to patronize her, but to mock her. It got so bad that she had to close it and work as a cashier in a small supermarket instead. Even so, none of that hurt as much as what she missed most: her younger sister. Not her money, not her support, but Efua herself. She missed having someone to talk to, someone who cared enough to check in, to rant to her about random things, even if Abena had barely listened. She missed having family. Meanwhile, Efua and Kofi had rebuilt their life together. Kofi became more present and supportive during the pregnancy. Efua eventually gave birth to twin girls, and they raised them with equal love and affection, determined that nothing like the past would repeat. One quiet afternoon in the supermarket, Abena sat behind the counter with her head lowered. It wasn't the door opening that made her look up. It was the voice. A voice she would recognize anyway. "Okay, girls," the woman said gently. "You can choose any sweets you want." The light sound of children's laughter followed, carrying easily through the shop. Abena's fingers stilled. Slowly, she lifted her head. She hadn't seen that face in almost 3 years. Efua looked different. There was a quiet peace about her that Abena hadn't ever seen. It only made Abena more aware of her own sharp edges, the exhaustion she carried, the unrest she could never seem to shake. Efua's breath caught. They held each other's gaze for what felt like an eternity, though it was really only a few seconds. The air between them grew heavy, unspoken memories pressing in from all sides. Efua was the first to break the moment. She looked down at her girls and said softly, "Nana, Zuri, go to the car. Let's get the sweets from a different store." The twins nodded and ran off. Efua began to turn toward the exit, but Abena rose from her seat behind the counter and stepped in front of her. "Efua, please, let's talk." Efua's eyes hardened and her voice was steady. "I have nothing to say to you." Abena swallowed. "Okay," she said quietly. "Then I'll talk." She took a deep breath. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything I did to you. You are right about what you said that night at the hotel. What our parents did to me was wrong, but it wasn't your fault. And you tried. You always tried to make me feel loved. And instead of healing from my pain, I became entitled and bitter." Her voice shook. "Please, I'll do whatever it takes for us to be the way we were before." Efua let out a quiet, humorless laugh. "The way we were before," she repeated. "I don't think there's anything in this world that can make things go back to that." She paused, then continued, softer but firm. "I have forgiven you. I truly have. I couldn't let what you did keep poisoning my life. But no matter how hard I try, I can't forget it." Abena said nothing. Efua added, "That night at the hotel, out of anger, I said I never want to see you. I take that back, because nobody knows tomorrow. But as for now, I don't want any sort of relationship with you." Then she walked away, leaving Abena standing in the middle of the supermarket. Only when Efua disappeared from sight did the tears come. In that moment, the full weight of everything she had done finally settled on her. She saw it clearly now. Her sister had reached a place of peace that Abena couldn't touch, couldn't disturb, and didn't even know how to reach herself. The truth hit her with unforgiving force. In trying to take her sister's husband, she had lost everything that truly mattered. And her body was a permanent reminder of that fact.
Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for your patience. And please don't forget to subscribe and let me know in the comments what you learned from this story. And also let me know if you are in Efua's shoes. Would you have forgiven Abena in the end and let her into your life again? Anyway, we remain African Folktale Nation, bringing you the most intriguing folktales.